What's up guys? Welcome to AnimeKouhai. If you'd like to help me out, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
Of course, there was a reason. I'd recognized Rain's artistic talents and had been making various requests for my own purposes. Rain had been more than happy to take on my requests, and before long, she became my personal artist. More specifically, I became her benefactor, helping her artistic talent flourish. How did it all come to this? Well, it started after the meeting at Leon's castle. Following that meeting, I got a glimpse of the paintings that had been seized from Diablo. To my surprise, Rain's paintings were absolutely stunning. They were so lifelike, almost like photographs. Rain's works covered a broad spectrum of subjects, showcasing her vivid imagination without even needing live models. Among her pieces, yes, you guessed it, there were also nudes. Naturally, I was quite curious. But of course, purely from an artistic perspective. The pursuit of beauty knows no bounds, and my thirst for it is endless. I felt no guilt whatsoever, just a desire for artistic knowledge. Driven by this curiosity, I casually asked her,
Rain, do you paint nudes without using models?
She looked at me and, in a straightforward manner, replied,
It'll cost you.
It wasn't about whether she could or not, it was a matter of price. Without hesitation, I presented her with a pouch of gold coins. Rain accepted it with barely a flicker of emotion, tucking it away smoothly. She even added, in her usual composed manner, gold coins don't mean much to a demon. But out of respect for Rimuru-sama, I couldn't help but think that this was just the opening move in a game of psychological chess. So, I pressed further.
Then, what is it you really want?
This wasn't a game of wits, nor any form of negotiation. It was rather direct.
Let's ignore Seal-san's interruption and continue. Rain's response to my query was simple.
I'm interested in points.
She said, looking at me with the most innocent of eyes. And from there, it was easy to win her over. After several personal meetings, I officially became her patron, supporting her artistic work. If Seal-san had saved these moments in my memory, I might not have been so eager. But since that didn't happen, I found myself navigating this path through Rain's paintings. Did I just hear a tongue click? No. I must be imagining things. I'm tired, after all, so maybe it's just a trick of my mind. I feel no guilt at all.
I still don't understand why so much of this art involves nude.
No way. Seal-san, surely there's nothing in this world that escapes your understanding. It has to be my imagination. And with that, this story is concluded. As a result, Rain and I grew closer, and now she's working for me as an external collaborator. Guy was bound to be suspicious, but honestly, I didn't owe him any explanations. So, I spoke to him with a serious tone.
We don't have time for this. This is an emergency. Get over here right away. Immediately.
With that, I abruptly ended the telepathy net with Guy. After all, the painting I had commissioned of Hinata wasn't finished yet. I can't let the world end before I get to see it. So, with renewed determination, I promised myself that I would do whatever it took to survive this crisis. Within minutes of me instructing Benimaru, everyone had gathered. Benimaru stood confidently at the helm, while Diablo, despite his efforts the previous day, seemed completely fresh and composed. Meanwhile, Datta, who had been recalled from his scouting mission due to the growing danger, was trembling in his seat. He could have taken a break, but his strong sense of duty kept him here. As for Ranga, he had already retreated into my shadow, adorably taking a well-deserved rest after all the hardship. Even though it felt a bit like cheating, I couldn't help but find his behavior endearing. On a related note, Geld had been severely injured and was currently in the emergency ward. Though no longer in critical condition, he had been so overworked that not even recovery medicine could keep up, and so he was resting in a rarely used facility. Gabel, who had been by Geld's side, had also been hospitalized by Shuna's orders. His injuries had been more severe than they appeared, and he had narrowly escaped death. The downside of the recovery medicine was that it made people seem healthier than they really were by only addressing the surface wounds. For a monster, magicules are like life energy. If those are drained, the monster could easily die. I've had close calls myself when naming monsters, so I had to insist Gabel rest, despite his wish to attend this meeting. Another person who had been seriously injured was Leon. Diablo had transported Leon to the medical facility, and Shuna reported that he would recover soon. Considering he was a former hero and current demon lord, his recuperation was surprisingly swift. I had hoped he would be able to join this meeting when he woke up, but I couldn't rush his recovery. And since we couldn't afford to wait, Leon wouldn't be present at the meeting this time. Other forces from the labyrinth included Kumara, Zijin, and Apito. Adelman and his group were stationed in Rubirius alongside Shion and Master Gadra, helping with defense. The Dragon King team doesn't participate in situations like this, so everyone available was here. Hakuro remained focused on training while guarding the children. Ser and Grigori were continuing their training as well, with Ser standing out among the rest, while Grigori was keeping up with the kids. Hakuro wasn't called to avoid making the children anxious. Chloe, who had pretended to be unwell to help me, now was actually ill. That was partly why I was trying to keep Kenya and the others calm. I had placed them on a safe floor of the labyrinth so they would be secure even in case of an enemy attack. But even so, I couldn't take any unnecessary risks. Kumara planned to join the children as soon as I left my message. There was another reason for Kumara's quick departure. Momiji and Alvis had also sought refuge in the labyrinth, accompanied by Kaide-san, who was experienced in childbirth and familiar with pregnant women. Thanks to her insistence, Hakuro had been assigned to guard Benimaru's wives, allowing him to focus fully on the upcoming battle. Though everyone was now gathered, the room still felt a bit empty, leaving me with a lingering unease. It wasn't surprising, given how scattered everyone was, and with Carrera's fate still uncertain, it was only natural to feel an unprecedented sense of urgency. Despite my worries, I needed to keep my composure, just as Benimaru was doing. We decided to conduct the meeting in a room next to the control room so we could quickly respond to any updates while keeping an eye on the ongoing situation. However, this was no time for a long discussion. I was planning to take matters into my own hands. Unfortunately, the battle outside raged on, and tremors continued shaking the ground beneath us. Most likely, the Kingdom of Ingratia was also feeling the impact of these earthquakes. If this kept up, the damage would extend not just across the continent but potentially the entire planet. To stop this, I was ready to beg for forgiveness for the bold move I was about to make. The plan I had settled on, where Guy and I would head out to deal with the situation, felt rash, reckless, and completely unplanned. But even Seal-san, my ever-reliable partner, hadn't come up with a better solution, so I had to accept this course of action.
Thank you all for coming.
I began, before diving straight into the matter at hand.
As for handling Milam, I'll be the one to go.
When I made that statement, the room immediately tensed up. It was a natural reaction. Having the leader act on their own is never a good idea. In my case, this kind of thing wasn't too uncommon, but even so, skipping any kind of discussion was unusual, so I understood that everyone had their concerns.
Well, then, I shall go with Rimuru-sama.
Diablo volunteered.
No.
I responded.
While you're certainly powerful, you can't hold back against Milam, right? I'm sure a more fitting opponent will show up, and when that happens, you'll have your chance to show me what you're capable of.
I turned him down. This was a decision I wasn't going to change. If we were going to fight Milam or Velzard, sending in a large force would only lead to more casualties.
Against opponents of that level, there isn't anyone we can rely on as a solid fighting force.
Seal-san agreed. It confirmed my thoughts that even Benimaru, Zijin, and Diablo would struggle in such a situation. While it wasn't guaranteed, the risk of death was too high. If they fought Milam with the intent to kill, maybe they could do it, but since our goal was to stop her, that approach wouldn't work. So, it was up to me to handle this situation. I then turned my attention to Guy, who had come here.
Sorry, but I'll need Guy's help.
Huh?
Guy stared at me, but I wasn't intimidated by it. Facing the danger of handling this situation on my own was far more daunting, so it was better to get him on board.
Come on, Guy. You're the leader of the Octogram, right? As the newest member, I really need the help of a trustworthy senior right now.
I planned to butter up Guy and get him involved. It would improve our chances of success, so I'd apologize later if I had to. However, Guy interrupted me, looking displeased.
You called me all the way here just to ask me to help? You've got some nerve.
No, it's because I'm such a coward that I need your help, Guy. This isn't a joke, I'm seriously asking.
At this point, I lowered my head, hoping Guy would understand how serious I was about this. His attitude shifted, and he spoke to me in a more serious tone.
Do you get it? I know you're worried about Milam and the others.
It seemed Guy had reached the same conclusion as Seal-san. Instead of focusing on stopping the fight between Milam and Velzard, it was a matter of priorities. The more I thought about it, the more stressful it became, but the truth was we needed to deal with what was in front of us.
Are you talking about the possibility of Ivaraj being released? Yeah, I'm concerned about that too. But if the world gets destroyed before that, it won't matter in the end.
I said this to Guy, trying to keep my resolve steady despite his intimidating presence.
So, you figured that out.
Guy replied in a bored tone, sitting down without saying much more. It looked like he'd decided to wait and see what I would do next. I took this opportunity to keep moving forward with my plan.
Actually, I'm not sure what Velzard's goal is. I don't believe her plan was to simply push Milam into a rampage.
Pushing Milam over the edge seemed like a means to something else, so what was Velzard aiming for? If we could figure that out, we might find a way to stop this. But now wasn't the time to focus on that. To save Carrera and the others, I had to put those concerns aside. As I was pondering this, Guy muttered something under his breath.
She probably wants a real fight with me.
Huh?
She's always been after the same thing. She wants to prove she's stronger than me in a serious battle.
Wait, what?
I was trying to figure out what Guy was talking about, and when I glanced over at him, his face was completely serious. It seemed like he wasn't joking. And that's exactly why I didn't want to deal with this. Guy looked genuinely uneasy. I can't believe the whole world might fall apart over some kind of lover's spat. I was confused, but we couldn't just ignore the situation.
Even if that's the case, if they keep going like this, the planet's going to be in pieces. We've got to stop them.
They want us to come, you realize that? Feldway's plan falls apart if we don't show up, so maybe not going is the best option.
Guy responded. Guy claimed that this world wouldn't actually break because it was formed by Veldanava's power. But even so, Milam's strength kept rising, and if left unchecked, magicules would start poisoning the planet. So, I guess I should be glad that at least the planet wouldn't explode. When you think about it, it makes sense that spells like Carrera's shouldn't be used on a planet. The only reason the world hadn't collapsed yet was because it had the durability to endure it. If that spell had been cast on Earth, even a slight shift could have thrown everything off balance. Guy's point made sense when he explained it that way. If we joined in, we'd just be walking right into Feldway's trap. And we could end up calling forth Ivaraj if things went wrong. It was clear that Guy's choice to avoid that risk made sense. Still, even though I agreed, it wasn't an option anymore.
A big thanks to the AnimeKouhai patrons who made this video possible. Jared Bressler, Havox, Speed Saber, Curtis Loban, Judah Herrera, Just a Guy, Miss L.W. Hernandez, Jason Martin, Zach Rosen, Jerry Sladek, Ray Perez, Jay, Donald Williams, Day of Light, John M, Godman Gaming, Markithian Tidwell, Adrian, Kumo, T. Bush, JV, Thomas, Christ, Joshua Cousins, Jose Hernandez, Khalid, Christian Deshazer, Divine C. Harris, Montyboy98, Ruben, Yuki Iki, Gray, Isaac, Koala King 93, Quilly Buckner, Alver, Darius King, Normal Defate, Vicente Baharias, Joshua Andrade, L, Gary Miles, Dragon Spawn 666, J. Rule, Nate, Leiron Sangkap, Lucas Guet, Jason Martin, Christopher Mash, Charles Bailey, Sky T, Diego Ginoza, Andre Hamilton, Martin Ramos, Guy Ensley, Simon Rode, Emperor WSA, Miko Espinosa, Gobi Lin, Pratik Bandari, Faiz Mansour, Jackson Early, Smexy, Carl Stephen Bernadal, Gareth Hashimoto, Steven Madison, Vasto Lord, Marl Barsha, Ralph Ignacio, Efrain Hernandez, William Locke, Kamal Luke, Jahid Hassan Lipu, Spencer Candila, Ian Sikibiol, Thanacorn Lee Sawat, KACP9R, The Harv, Drayden Yamauchi, Alex Buthanu, Michael Brinkley, Nathan Alexander, Mario Kanoy, Karam Faraj. Thank you so much for helping out. I'll see you guys in the next video.